After a complete team win in week 3, the Washington Commanders came out flat once again on the road. Total collapse on third down and an inability to stop explosive plays led to a humbling loss in Atlanta and questions surrounding 2 of the team's most veteran defenders. That and more right now on Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Washington Commanders for WUSA 9, and I'm right here with you 5 days a week. You can also find me writing about the Washington Commanders on Sports Illustrated, CommanderGameDay.com. You can follow me on X at DHarrison82, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen or your first view today and every day, and to the everydayers, those of you who come through for every single episode. A special thank you, as always, goes out to you. If it's your first time here, welcome to the show. Hopefully you like what you hear, even though you don't like the topic, and you come back again real soon. Coming up on today's episode, we're going to lead off with the biggest story, or the biggest conversation point, I should say, coming out of Sunday's loss to the Atlanta Falcons, and that is that there are some who are calling for the benching or even potential release of guys like linebacker Bobby Wagner and cornerback Marshon Lattimore. Then we're going to dive into our weekly after-action review, break down where the game plan failed against the Atlanta Falcons, and talk about what needs to be sustained moving forward and what needs to be improved. All of that is coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And it's all brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you bet just $5. And if that bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use anywhere on the FanDuel app. The biggest conversation point on the outside of the organization following the team's week 4 loss to the Atlanta Falcons is the call for changes to happen at 2 very specific positions. One involving linebacker Bobby Wagner and questions about whether or not he's too old, too slow, too unathletic in his age to keep up with today's offenses. And then cornerback Marshon Lattimore, who, again, a lot of people had a lot of angst about him coming out of last season, expected more out of him after the trade last year, didn't get it, wanted to see, all pro level, Pro Bowl level caliber play out of him here early in the season. And so what I did, which is why this episode, if you noticed, is a little bit later than usual, is I went back through this Atlanta Falcons game specifically, and I watched every rep. I watched every rep that Bobby Wagner took, made notes, made observations, did all those things. And then I watched every rep that Marshon Lattimore took, and I did all the same things. And I don't mean I watched the play, I watched Bobby and Marshon. No, I watched the entire game, just Bobby Wagner. Then I watched the entire game, just Marshon Lattimore. I've watched this Falcons games more times than anybody should have to at this point. But I want to have this conversation because I know it's a conversation that a lot of you are having and want to have, and I want to have it as honestly as I possibly could. So these are just my observations. And of course, you can disagree with them. You might agree with them. And of course, that is part of the conversation. But I'm just going to give you my side of the conversation. Should Bobby Wagner be benched overall? No. 1,000% no. I'm going to tell you why. Should Bobby Wagner be benched on passing downs? I think that's where you have a little bit more of a conversation. So let's dive into this. Overall, and I don't really do grades every day, as you know this, but I think for this specific situation, I was like, I think this one just kind of warrants it. Not so much to be a definitive on how well either guy did or didn't do, but just to kind of help you gauge what I'm really thinking, right? I can tell you, well, I liked this or I didn't like this, but if I put a B on it or an A on it or an F on it, then you really know how much I liked or didn't like something, right? So overall for Bobby Wagner, I gave him a B. He was an anchor on the run defense. He had a team-high 10 tackles. He also had a TFL. His instincts in the red zone are, as usual, elite. Directly force a field goal with his gap integrity ability on a 30-goal run stop. And those are very important things. Now, that of course, there are flaws to what happened, just like with everybody else with Bobby. His limitations athletically were absolutely exposed in space against Bijan Robinson, especially on that 69-yarder that went down the right sideline. He was the nearest defender on 2 third-down conversions, including that 69-yarder, put on another one as well. And those are kind of the pinpoints that people are pulling at to say maybe the game has passed him by athletically. However, I think benching him overall is incredibly short-sighted, or the opinion that he should be benched overall is incredibly short-sighted. I like Jordan McGee a lot. If you're an everydayer on this show and you have been for a while, you know I've been very high on Jordan Magee's potential for a very long time. However, Jordan Magee's potential is still very much potential. And I hear you. You can't prove potential unless you get the opportunity to get reps, right? I got it. But you have to understand what Bobby Wagner brings to the field outside of the run fits, outside of the instincts, outside of the tackling ability is much more on the planning, on the on-field coaching, on the leadership side of it, all of that stuff. You take him off the field, you also take all of that away from the defense, and you just can't do it. Where I could bend a little bit on this conversation is on clear passing downs on third downs. However, that 69-yard screen pass was a first down play. There are some other plays in this game where he maybe kind of faltered a little bit. None of them were on clear third downs. They're on like maybe a 3rd and 2, a 3rd and 1. None of them are on clear third down. So even if you say, or if we can agree that, okay, on clear third down passing downs, bring in Jordan Magee between the 20s. In the red zone, I'm telling you right now, in the red zone, no. Bobby Wagner is still one of the best, if not the best linebackers in the NFL. So in the red zone, you're going to have to miss me on that. We're going to have to agree to disagree. Between the 20s, in the open field, I could get on board with him not being on the field in clear passing situations, but everything else he does, you have to have it on the field. First down, second down, 3rd and 4 or less. 3rd and 5 or more, okay. You could get me to sign off for whatever it's worth on Jordan Magee being a better solution on the field. But, look, that 69-yard screen pass, guys, that's a scheme thing. And it was just brilliantly drawn up, brilliantly executed. Bobby Wagner's having to run over and around 2, rub routes that the Falcons ran beautifully. Neither of them put themselves in a position to be called for offensive pass interference. They executed it beautifully. Jordan Magee, yeah, he's faster. Yeah, he's more agile than Bobby Wagner is. But is he going to have the wherewithal, the mentality, and the awareness to get around that traffic as cleanly as Bobby Wagner did? Because actually, Bobby got around it as clean as you possibly could. Jordan Magee, if he gets caught up in the trash, all the speed in the world is not going to help him catch up to Bijan Robinson, right? So I think that was a lot about play design and scheme. So anyway, the point is, even if we agree, okay, maybe Jordan comes in on clear passing downs, a lot of what happened where people are having angst with Bobby Wagner didn't happen on clear passing downs. That being said, there's no way in the world Jordan Magee replaces what Bobby Wagner brings to you, even with some of his deficiencies. So that's just kind of where I stand on Bobby. As far as Marshon Lattimore, obviously he got a lower grade. He got a C for me from this game, which maybe is not low enough for some people. He's a very boom or bust type of player so far this season. But I'll tell you right now, I gave him an A in the red zone. I gave him a B+ on third down, which are your two most critical areas of the game. So in the most critical areas of the game, he's still very, very good. Between the field now, between the 20s, that's where he had some of his struggles. He had a downhill tackle on a 3rd and goal for a 3-yard loss that helped save a touchdown. He was beaten by Drake London on a double move for a 43-yard reception to set up a Falcons touchdown. I'll tell you right now, Marshon Lattimore getting beaten on double moves is something that's been part of his career, his entire career. So even the Pro Bowl version, even the All-Pro caliber version of Marshon Lattimore still was vulnerable to getting beat on double moves because he's incredibly aggressive. That's just part of his nature. So those types of things, honestly, it's kind of like you have Brett Favre quarterback. Packers fans understood with Brett Favre quarterback, you're going to have to live with some really bad interceptions to get all of the other stuff that you want. Marshon Lattimore, you're going to have to live with getting beat on some double moves to get everything else that you want out of him. I hear you. The problem is you're not getting all the other stuff that you want out of him. I got it. I'm not arguing with you on that. I'm just saying the double move is really never going to go away as far as that being part of something that he's vulnerable to. The key there is the pass rush getting to the quarterback before they can take advantage of that vulnerability. His performance, again, was not clean. Obviously, the lower grade player of the two here. But I also go back to, okay, you want Marshon Lattimore benched. Who's the alternative? Who's the better player? The only answer I've been able to get from anybody that sounds even feasible is Mikey Sanderson. Move Mikey Sanderson back outside where he performed better last year than he's performing in the slot this year. Move Marshon Lattimore back in the slot. Honestly, if Joe Witt Jr. wants to give that a try, I'm not necessarily against it. But I'm telling you, the between the 20 double moves, still going to be a vulnerability for Marshon Lattimore. The Drake London size mismatch, still going to be a vulnerability for Mikey Sanderson. So we're arguing about things that are just going to kind of be there. And it reminds me of like, you're punishing a dog for just being a dog. No, what you have to do is find a way to use what that dog is to your benefit. So instead of saying, pull Marshon Lattimore into the slot, he's still going to get hit double moves. they're still going to try to use his aggression against him. Put Mikey Sandersville back outside. That size mismatch is still going to be the size mismatch. Mikey Sandersville is 5'8" in the slot. He's 5'8" in the perimeter. He's 5'8" as a safety. Doesn't matter. It's still going to be there, and the Falcons are still going to try to find ways to use it against them. The key is for Joe Witt Jr. and his defense figuring out how to use who these players are to their best capabilities to make this defense work. Because I'm telling you right now, the other solution is Noah Igbenogany in there instead of Marshon Lattimore, and that's not going to be any better. In fact, a lot of the dog that you get in Marshon Lattimore that intimidates other receivers is not going to be there with Noah Igbenogany. So if we're talking about straight up replacing him, guys, it's September 30th. It's almost October. There is nobody that's going to come in and be your shutdown corner for your NFL defense waiting for a job. That's a conversation for the offseason. We're in season. Saying simply bench somebody is not going to be a solution unless you genuinely think the person sitting behind him is actually better. And if he was actually better, this coaching staff would probably already know it. And there's nobody on the streets that are going to do it. You're not going to like some of that. Maybe you're going to like some of it. Either way, the veteran debate is a hot topic. Until this defense gets everything on track, it's going to continue to be a hot topic. You don't have to agree with me to keep listening. Hopefully you do, because the entire team failed to execute the game plan that we laid out for them. However, they did try to do some of the things we laid out. So we'll evaluate how they did it, what they did right, what they did wrong. Coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you in part by Mizzen Main. You know the saying, look good, feel good. Well, the problem is that most dress clothes only check one of those boxes. They look sharp, they feel stiff, they feel hot, and they're very high maintenance. That's why there's Mizzen Main. Mizzen Main makes classic menswear with performance fabric, so it looks effortless to look sharp and feel comfortable at the same time. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they perfected it ever since. The team has to get back to work after a tough road loss, and looking professional is part of resetting that standard. That's what Mizzen Main are all about. Their shirts are wrinkle resistant and machine washable, so you go from tough film sessions straight to traveling for the next game looking sharp. It's the feel of athletic wear with the look of professional menswear. Right now, Mizzen Main is offering our listeners 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com with the promo code LOCKEDONNFL20. That's Mizzen, spelled M-I-Z-Z-E-N, and Main, M-A-I-N.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL20 for 20% off. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Because right now, new FanDuel customers, you bet just $5 and you'll get $300 in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use anywhere on the app. I love how FanDuel gives you so many ways to play. Even in a tough loss like the one in Atlanta, you could see Bijan Robinson was having a huge day. You could have jumped in on FanDuel and bet his live player props for rushing or receiving yards. It makes every game more exciting. Even when your team is struggling, maybe you can get a little bit of a win. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats like I do, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Our entire game plan for the Washington Commanders heading into Atlanta was built around dominating the line of scrimmage and forcing mistakes. But a complete collapse on third down kept any of that from happening and ultimately rendered our game plan and, quite truthfully, the Washington Commanders game plan ineffective. So the good news from a confidence in process standpoint is a lot of the things that we outlined the Washington Commanders should do against the Falcons, they tried to do. Unfortunately, a lot of things they tried to do, a lot of things we said they should try to do, they didn't do very well. And that's where it kind of yanks over 2 straight road games where the team basically came out flat and got dominated by their opponent. Our game plan on offense relied heavily on the run game, especially to the right side of the field, use Marcus Mariota's mobility, attack the play, actually exploit a depleted Falcons secondary. And don't forget, it was missing its primary cornerback, A.J. Terrell. The execution was inconsistent. Ultimately, obviously, did not keep up in the shootout with the Atlanta Falcons. Overall, we give the run game attack a C, not because they didn't use it, not because it didn't have some success, but because, honestly, they just couldn't use it enough trying to keep up with the Falcons offense. But you go back to that big run by Chris Rodriguez Jr., and what side of the line was that to? It was to the right side of the formation, right? Doesn't mean you should do nothing but that. Defenses get paid and all that kind of stuff too. But 6.7 yards per carry average for Chris. Fortunately or unfortunately, I know some people have a problem with it. Cliff Kingsbury basically came with a very clear, even touch distribution plan between Chris, Ja'Cory Cross-Barrett, and Jeremy McNichols. I think Chris and Bill each got 10 carries, and Jeremy McNichols got 9. Some people don't like that. It is what it is. Ultimately, though, the run game, while I would say wasn't necessarily fantastic, I don't think it was necessarily blamed for any shortcomings. Marcus Mariota's mobility, they did allow him to do that. B+ grade. And this was a brighter spot of the game. 22-yard scramble on 3rd and 14. A critical conversion that led to a field goal, helped keep the Commanders in the game. That was the only 3rd down conversion of the game. I think what you have to really see as problematic here is that the only 3rd down conversion from the Washington Commanders offense was an off-script scramble by your quarterback. Now, kudos to Cliff Kingsbury, who lets his quarterbacks do that and doesn't try to bottle them up, right? But the design play failed on all 8 3rd down conversion attempts. That's a problem. Play action. They tried it. It just didn't work. Poor execution, costly interception on a deep play action pass in the end zone, ending a key drive. Not good on that level. So those 3 things with the offensive game plan. Again, they tried a lot of it. It just wasn't very effective. On defense, our game plan was to dominate the early downs by stopping the run. We talked about this. The Atlanta Falcons, we're going to try to get Bijan Robinson going. Bijan Robinson going by running to the left, running to the right, attacking the perimeters, off tackle, all that stuff. You got to contain them. You got to rally to the ball. You got to hit your gaps, hit your fits, and get in there and make the tackles because the play action screen passes, especially, we're going to come after that. Bijan Robinson, that was his primary way of getting involved in his offense from a passing standpoint was screen passes and play action screen passes. So again, I've always had the stance, and I'm going to always have this stance. If I see it, if we see it, if you see it, they've seen it. Coaches have seen it, right? So again, we saw all this coming. They saw it coming. The question is why they didn't plan correctly for it and why they didn't execute correctly for it. So, this failed across all boards, right? Run defense. The run defense was just beaten soundly all day long. The Falcons ran for 128 yards, 2 touchdowns, controlled the clock for 34 minutes of the game. Pressure, basically non-existent. Dan Quinn himself said they probably should have stunted more up front. Yeah, play some of those games, twist, turn, do all those kinds of things. 1 sack generated. Frankie Louga's first sack of the season. That's great. However, it was the only sack of the game, and it just wasn't enough. Quarterback Michael Penix Jr. threw for 313 yards, a career high. Only the 2nd game in his entire NFL career. Granted, it's a short career. It's only the 2nd game in his career that he's gone for over 300 yards, had a 126 passer rating in the game. Screen defense, again, failed this assignment as well. Out of position on that play action screen, Bijan Robinson. Bobby Wagner just was out of position. They used it against him, couldn't get over fast enough. And again, I still contend, even if that's Jordan McGee, first of all, it's a 1st and 10 play. So even if Jordan is coming in on passing downs, it's not a passing down, and go for 69 yards. Huge props to Jeremy Reeves for getting downfield to make the tackle and keep him from scoring on the play. Unfortunately, they scored on the very next play. And so it was all kind of not for nothing, but certainly for naught in this game. F's across the board on the defensive game plan. Again, not because it wasn't important, not because the things the Falcons tried to do weren't the things that they tried to do, but because this defense just simply couldn't stand up to any of it. So this game exposed some serious flaws in the Washington Commanders defense specifically, but as a team as a whole. So we got to identify the few positives that can be carried over into Los Angeles in Week 5 and identify 3 of the most important things that have to be fixed before this Washington Commanders team sees the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday. That's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you in part by Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried one or both. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it is time to meet Rugiet Go Long. That's exactly where Rugiet Go Long comes in, because this isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for total confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula, so you can get ready to go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence for you all day and all night, and the process is simple. So connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. So if you're ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom, head to Rugiet.com. That's Rugiet.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet, Rugiet.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Make sure to use our code so they know that we sent you. In a loss like this one, it's absolutely crucial to identify what little things you did right that you can move forward with, and absolutely crucial to identify the things that went wrong and get them fixed, right? DQ talked about as much, got to get these things corrected moving forward. For some reason, they don't show up at home. They show up on the road. You can't do that. You got to be consistent. 3 things to sustain coming out of this game. Explosive run plays. Despite the overall offensive inconsistency, the run game produced very, very well. Chris Rodriguez, that big explosive run, over 6 yards per carry, all of those things. Honestly, if you're me, which I am, I think Chris Rodriguez needs to get more work. I think Chris Rodriguez should be getting 13, 14 carries a game. Obviously, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt's got talent. He should be in there. Jeremy McNichols, look, steady veteran, all that stuff, leader in the locker room, leader in the room. I just think that it needs to be a Chris Rodriguez, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt type of show, like 13 touches for each dude between running and passing. Jeremy McNichols, you know what I mean? Get him in there for a couple of plays here and there, all that kind of stuff. But most part, you're going to be a mentor to the young guys on the sideline. Special teams returns. The unit continues to be a weapon. Yes, there were 2 muff punts by Jalen Lane. Certainly, that's not what you want to see out of Jalen. Not a way to build off his rookie of the week that he had in week 3. But overall, the return unit still is very strong. Luke McCaffrey, 33.2 yards per return, including a 58-yarder to set up a scoring drive. He also, DQ praised him. He scored his 2nd touchdown of his career, 2nd touchdown in as many weeks. And then on the ensuing kickoff, came down and stuck the Atlanta Falcons return specialist for a very big stop. So Luke McCaffrey just, again, showing why he is valuable as a guy who kind of just does a little bit of everything. In the kicking game, I mean, let's shine a little bit of light in the kicking game. Matt Gay, perfect for the day, converted on all 4 of his field goal attempts, 100% on his PATs. So that was great to see. Yeah, I was indoors, but you know what? It still counts. 3 things to improve on. 3rd down execution on both sides. I mean, this is, like, if you want to say, what's the one area of this game where this team lost this game? It's 3rd down. 1 for 8, 12.5% on offense. And again, that one was not on the design play. And the defense allowed a 50% conversion rate for the Falcons, 6 for 12. Coach Quinn said post-game, quote, 3rd down was a huge factor in the game on both sides, end quote. Yeah, understatement of the week. Tackling in space. Defense gave up way too many yards after the run, after the catch. Looks, a lot of people said to me, the Falcons have a really good run game. Bijan Robinson, arguably the best running back in the league. Got it. You got to attack him. I don't care. You got to attack him. It's Derrick Henry. You got to attack him. Saquon Barkley. You got to attack him. Speaking of which, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you're looking at this Commanders defense playing Bijan Robinson like this and Tyler Algier like this, you're just going, bro, Saquon Barkley, career days coming up, right? I mean, and then the whole reason the Commanders took the approach they did this offseason was to make up for what happened against Saquon Barkley 3 times last season. I mean, Bijan Robinson right now is like Saquon Barkley Jr., right? Not light, but like junior. So, I mean, this is what happened against this team. But you got to get it fixed. Good news is you don't face the Eagles this weekend. You didn't face the Eagles last week, but you got to get it fixed, right? 69-yard screen pass again. Obviously the biggest glaring moment in that game. Slow starts on the road. DQ said, quote, our 2 road games, we've started slowly, and our 2 home games, we haven't. First quarter down 10-0. We've got to make sure we can get that turned around, end quote. How do you turn it around? Energy. You turn around energy. You turn around leadership. Players got to get each other hyped up. Too many arm tackling attempts on defense. Too much passivity on defense. You got to get guys in there who want to fight. Someone has got to get pissed off enough to call each other out. Not just have a speech, not just have a moment, not just have a conversation. No, someone's got to get pissed off and hold everybody accountable. That's going to do it for today's episode. Next time on Locked On Commanders, it's mailbag time. Cracking open the mailbag from our insiders to see what else it is you want answered as we transition from Week 4 against the Atlanta Falcons into Week 5 against the Los Angeles Chargers. In the meantime, if you want to get in on that mailbag episode, all you got to do is become an insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Sign up today, and you can submit your own questions for the insider mailbags. However, you're also going to get information from me directly to your phone via text message, and you get to text me all your thoughts and ideas, your agreements, your disagreements. Had a lot of really honest conversations with a lot of insiders this week. It has been great because even when we disagree, everybody stays respectable, and it's just an awesome conversation. So for your next listen, check out a double dose of Locked On NFL. Find out what the national media thinks of what is going on with the Washington Commanders and everyone else. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this podcast. To the everydayers, I see you. I appreciate you every single day, and I thank you especially for coming through again today. Until next time, stay safe, be kind to one another. We'll talk to you again soon right here on Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.